97.3 ESPN Sixers insider, MKB. Michael, how are you, sir?
Pete, I'm doing great, man. It's great to talk to you.
It's good to talk to you, sir. Are you going to go to that London game? Have you given some thought about that, or what's the story there?
You know, I would have to update my passport if I do go. I would love to. I haven't really given it any thought, but it would certainly be an intriguing opportunity that I would definitely take advantage of if presented.
Well, you have that game. That's a feature game. And then the Christmas Day game, 12 noon on Christmas Day against the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. Those are two of the feature games that jumped out. What were your thoughts and your takeaways when you first scanned through the schedule?
The main takeaway, I think, that myself and a lot of people had was just the amount of national TV games for the Sixers. They have 23 total nationally televised games for the coming season between TNT, ESPN, and NBA TV, which is just an enormous jump from last season. I think they had 3 or 4 tops total for all of last season. So it's almost 20 more, national TV games from last season to this season. And I think that just kind of is indicative of, the national interest and intrigue in the Sixers that a lot of people have after, a few seasons where there was not a whole lot of interest outside of Philadelphia in this team. I think now with all the talent that's assembled, people are starting to really, perk up and be a little bit curious as to how it all, shakes out on the court.
Have you heard the same narrative that I have where for as many people as you find, like, look, see, the league's paying attention. The Sixers are exciting. You find the same people that go, yeah, but they put the Lakers on a bunch of times too. Like, you hear that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Lakers, I think, are second to only the Warriors in terms of national TV games. And I think that's probably just, a result of the hype and everything surrounding, obviously, Lonzo Ball and, just that young Lakers squad. And them, like the Sixers, are a team that I think a lot of people are kind of expecting to take that next step this season from a team that's been, kind of bottom dwellers for the past few lottery-bound teams into teams that, might be on the brink of building something and making a playoff push. So, I think the Lakers might be a little bit overrepresented on national TV this year, but their situation is similar to the Sixers in terms of, a lot of interest in a young team.
Michael Kaskey-Blomain with us, our 97.3 ESPN Sixers insider. So the schedule, if you look through it, Michael, the last 15 games or so, 10 of those final 15 are all at home. That would lead me to believe that if the Sixers are closing in on a playoff berth, that a lot of people do hope that this version of the Sixers this coming season will be a playoff team. Home cooking can't hurt, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Pete, especially coming down the stretch. Like you said, they have a whole lot of home games. And, if games toward the end of last season were any indication, I know you were there for a couple of the games where, it was a packed house in January where Joel was playing and the team was winning. And it was, it was electric in the Wells Fargo Center during those games, just like it used to be back in the day when Iverson was here. And, based off the early returns for the ticket sales and season tickets, it really seems like the Wells Fargo Center is, it's going to be a place to be this year in Philadelphia. I think the games are going to be really, intense from the crowd perspective. And, if playoffs are in the picture when, March and April roll around on the calendar, those games coming down the stretch will be, there's a game against Cleveland, one against Dallas. They end the season at home against the Bucks, who are, another young team that could be fighting for a playoff spot. So there's a potential for there to be a really exciting spring in South Philly.
How about the back-to-backs? Because they're slated for 14 back-to-backs this coming season. That's down from 18 last season. And, of course, for a team that had injury restrictions or minutes restrictions to Joel Embiid at times last year, we're not sure what they're going to get out of Ben Simmons. We hope 100%. That's 4 less games of back-to-back and tough decisions.
Yeah, that was a pretty positive step, I think, the league made in general to try to reduce just the wear and tear and the toughness of the schedule on some of these guys. And you said it exactly for the Sixers specifically. With a guy like Joel who was strictly off limits in back-to-backs last year. Another guy like you said in Ben who's coming off of an entire season on the sideline. Markelle obviously had his little injury scare at Summer League. So a lot of guys that are coming off of injuries. And, you would probably like to have even less back-to-backs, especially for the Sixers' sake. But, it's nice to see that their league is at least making an effort to kind of reduce the the back-to-back situations for teams, and it should work to, help the Sixers this season. It'll be interesting, obviously, the exact parameters of, Joel's minute load and how much he will and be able to play this coming season is not, it hasn't really been revealed by the team yet, but it'll be, it'll certainly be interesting when it comes out if he's able to play in any back-to-backs this year or if those minute restrictions will be fully lifted.
Hey, Mike, it's Josh. You mentioned Joel Embiid, and that's kind of the direction I wanted to go. I was talking with Bobby Marks, the former front office guy with the Nets yesterday, and we were talking about the fact that Joel Embiid has that contract extension eligibility, but it has to get done before, I believe, I remember right, it's October 16th. And if they don't get it done, then they'll have to renegotiate for a new deal after the season. If you're the Sixers, would you get a deal done before that date, or would you let the season play out and then negotiate?
That, I think, is the toughest question that the Sixers have to answer right now. Me personally, I think you would have to get a deal done beforehand. If he does play out the season and is able to be healthy, the demand for him on the market by default will push that the number up. Not that I think he would necessarily want to leave Philadelphia or anything like that, but I think it would just be a gesture of goodwill to kind of get him locked up for the future going forward. And it's just, one less thing to worry about. Each year for the next coming years, they'll have, there'll be a guy that will be due for a contract. Obviously, Okafor will be the year after Embiid. I don't think a lot of people think that he'll be re-upping with the Sixers, but then Ben, obviously, and Markelle down the road. All these guys will be due for the extensions coming down in the coming season. So I think it's probably a good idea for the team to lock up the players that they want to keep, as early as the opportunity presents itself to just kind of smooth the process, if you will, for the rest of the guys going forward. But I certainly understand the, hesitation on some of the fans' part with the Embiid situation. It's pretty tough to want to commit that sort of money to a player that hasn't been able to, stay out on the court. But I think the hope of the organization and certainly the fan base is that Joel will be able to, maintain the production that he had last year at a higher game rate and stay healthy for more of, obviously for more of the games this season in his career going forward. It's tough to tell at this point whether Joel has just been really unlucky or if it's kind of the issues are all indicative of a larger problem of an inability of his body just to stay healthy. It's been different injuries, dating back to his back in college, obviously the foot, the knee. There's been different areas, so it's not like it's been one issue. So it's really tough to say, oh, man, is this kid that's been, really unlucky with different injuries, or is this a kid that's never going to, be able to stay healthy? We don't know the answer at that point, and committing excess money to a player that couldn't potentially stay healthy would be, it would be tough. But if it was me, I would give Joel the money. Talent-wise, it's there, and I think he just got to hope for the best.
We're talking with Michael Kaskey-Blomain, our 97.3 ESPN.com Sixers insider. You can follow him on Twitter at @TheRealMikeKB. Embiid, his agent is Leon Rose. For those who don't know, Leon Rose, he also represents Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Durant, and he was the agent of Allen Iverson. Do you think having an agent like Rose, who represents a lot of star-powered guys, could that influence how the negotiations go, considering the fact that the Sixers are a team that they've drafted a bunch of guys now in the top of the lottery, so it's not like Embiid is the only person they have to worry about contractually.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously a guy like Leon Rose, who's really experienced, will be putting his client first, whereas, the Sixers, like you said, have a whole bunch of guys that they'll have to worry about other than just Embiid to lock up moving forward, where, Rose, obviously his A1 priority will be his client and, maximizing the opportunity and the return that Joel gets. So I think in that matter, it'll help benefit Joel, I think, in that situation. And it'll certainly kind of, I don't want to say put the pressure on the Sixers, but having a guy with a kind of like a reputation and knows what he's doing as far as Rose does, it'll put the proverbial pressure on the Sixers, I think, to get a deal done. I don't think that Rose would be, afraid to say that, they would look elsewhere if the offers weren't right in Philadelphia. And the offers would be there elsewhere, considering what Joel has displayed so far on the court. So I think that that is definitely part of a storyline that will be closely followed, kind of going into training camp and before the start of the regular season, to see exactly what the Sixers decide to do with Joel. And Robert Covington is another one who there was reports earlier in the summer that the Sixers were looking to lock him up for a long-term extension. He'll be coming off the books after next season. So, those two guys specifically in the coming months, I think it'll be extremely interesting to see, if and when the Sixers do lock those guys up long-term.
I don't want to sound like the guy who's trying to rain on the parade, but it's a question that needs to be asked, and that is, you look at teams in the past who have had multiple young stars on their roster, whether you're talking about the Thunder, who at one point had Westbrook, Durant, Ibaka, and Harden on the same team. You look at a team like the Warriors right now with Curry and Green. Now they brought in Durant. They had Thompson. Sometimes this works, like the Warriors. Sometimes they break up. How would you gauge the likelihood? Because we know everything seems happy and kumbaya right now, but guys have egos. Look at Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving doesn't want to be on the Cavs with LeBron James anymore. Guys and their egos get in the way. We know that Simmons doesn't really have an ego much at all. Embiid is very out there, very public, very on social media. We're still learning about Markelle Fultz. We know Saric is a team-oriented guy from what we understand. So, of the guys who are here right now, how would you gauge the possibility of the Sixers being able to keep all of them versus the Sixers maybe having to make a choice of a couple guys over another?
Yeah, that's a great question, Josh. And I think, like you said, I don't think it's necessarily raining on the parade. I think it's just realistic. When you have so many talented guys that you draft in consecutive years and you have them all on your rookie contracts, it's a situation that I think in reality, a couple years down the road, not even necessarily ego-wise or anything like that, it just might be financially difficult or even impossible for the Sixers to keep all of those guys. You have to, take into consideration the fact that they'll probably also be looking to add, more free agents in the coming couple off seasons. Obviously, they had JJ on a one-year, $23 million deal this summer. But, going forward, as the team continues to climb back to contention, they'll be looking to add more guys, of JJ's caliber, if not better. So that will obviously be a big chunk of the salary cap, too. And then if you're looking at paying guys like, this obviously, if they're all healthy and are able to produce like we think and hope they'll be able to, but to pay, Joel, Markelle, Ben, guys like that will need close to max money, and then other guys like a Robert Covington, a Dario Saric, handsome contracts in their own right. It would just be really hard, I think, if not impossible, to fit all that and balance that on a salary cap with the other other players on the team. There's certain situations where something like that could work in Golden State, as you mentioned. Like Kevin Durant just this summer took a much less than what he could have as far as a max contract in order to allow the Warriors to bring back Andre Iguodala and Sean Livingston on decent contracts, so they could keep the the whole core of their team together. So eventually, a couple of summers down the road, when it comes to that, it depends what these guys' egos develop into. It would certainly take some sacrificing, I think, financially on some of their parts to be able to keep them all together. But eventually, I think the Sixers will have to make a couple difficult decisions just based off, either making trades or letting guys potentially walk in free agency that, they would probably like to keep, but just couldn't really swing, fitting them all under the cap. That's definitely going to be an issue, I think, in the years to come.
He is Michael Kaskey-Blomain. He's our 97.3 ESPN Sixers insider, and like Josh said, you can find him on Twitter. The Real Mike KB is his Twitter handle. Not one, not two, but 3 dates next week, Michael, where the Sixers will be down in our area for 17 years. They came just to Avalon. They're kind of changing things up a little bit, so maybe we get to see you actually face-to-face next week. Tuesday, they're in Ocean City. Thursday, they're at Wildwood Crest, and next Saturday, they're at Stone Harbor. So maybe one of those 3 days, for sure, we'll be talking Sixers basketball and have you on again, bud.
Absolutely, Pete. That'd be great.